Hi, everyone. My name is George Roby, and today's topic will be covering legal epidemiology. More importantly, how we can use this to transform our health and nutritional system as we know it today in the U.S. I'll cover what it actually is, its frameworks and interventions, as well as applying it to a topic that I'm very passionate about, which is non-communicable diseases that can often be prevented with proper diet and physical activity. We're not alone in this. The government played a large portion in getting us here today, and it can play a large part in how to get us out of it. We'll cover both. Let's get into it. How legal epidemiology can help to transform our health and nutritional system. The scientific study and deployment of law as a factor in the cause, distribution, and prevention of disease and injury in a population. Legal epidemiology plays an important role in making it easier to understand the ways laws work and affect health, evaluate the law's impact, and to develop and share policies to prevent and treat disease. Through shared research and data, we can determine what's working and what's not. So what is the overall impact of legal epidemiology? In Friedman's A Framework for Public Health Action, he mentions that law appears as the primary driver for changing the context to make individuals' default decisions healthy. The notable public health interventions he mentions use law and policy to achieve this goal. For example, fluoridating the public water supply, removing trans unsaturated fatty acids from processed foods, and disincentivizing tobacco through use of taxes and zoning. Law also impacts socioeconomic factors in poverty, education, housing, together responsible for creating the greatest impacts on public health. Let's go through US by the numbers. These are for adults aged 20 and over. Almost 32% of Americans are overweight and 42% are obese. Combined, that is 70% of the population that is at high risk by being simply overweight or in that obese category. 64% higher chance of stroke with obesity, 50% higher increase in heart disease, and a 20% higher chance for type 2 diabetes. So what are the causes? I have mentioned, although there could be many, I have three main ones that I want to cover today. Number one is processed foods. Number two is misinformation. And number three, we have to follow the money, and that's lobbyists. And we'll cover all three right now. Number one, processed foods. Here is where the federal trade policy and private interest is a major factor resulting in our health and nutrition system today. In the mid-70s, President Nixon's administration, more specifically his Secretary of Agriculture in Earl Butz, used his department subsidies program to push American farmers to increase their production of corn and help increase its export around the world. When corn prices fell and surplus developed, Butz championed the spread of high fructose corn syrup, which was up to about 70% cheaper than sugar. The processing of corn led to the experimenting of how to mass produce and reduce the cost of all food while increasing profits. This within itself changed the modern diet as we know it. Number two, misinformation. Almost every major food company is guilty of this. Case in point, you can look at this advertisement for 1955. It's very small print, so I haven't highlighted the section that I want you to see in this ad to the left. For 7-Up is so pure, so wholesome, you can even give it to babies and feel good about it. We know that high consumption of soda and other sugary drinks among children and adults have been linked to the epidemic of obesity and related non-communicable diseases. One of the ways legal epidemiology helps is to regulate advertisement for unhealthy products or misinformation of products. Next up is free trade policies and lobbyists. There's two particular federal policies or international policies that I'd like to cover today and how that impacted us, which is World Trade Organization and Nafta, which stands for North American Free Trade Agreement. Post-World War II, free trade policies promoted peace and prosperity. Although the goal was promising, it gave birth for manufacturers to process byproducts of meats and other items, market it as something different, and export it around the world. Case in point, turkey tails. Turkey tails is a gland-like part that attaches the tail of the turkey to the bird. The bird uses the oils from the gland to preen its feathers. Poultry companies exported this product to Samoa where meat was scarce. The average Samoan was eating 44 pounds of turkey tails a year. 93% of Samoans became overweight or obese. As an example of legal epidemiology in play, Samoa recognized this problem and banned importing turkey tails. Meanwhile, Samoa's efforts to join the WTO was halted by the lobbying power of U.S. poultry farmers. The WTO wielded to this power and blocked Samoa's membership until it agreed to lift the ban of turkey tails. The next example of federal trade policy is Nafta, North American Free Trade Agreement. This was comprised of the US, Canada, and Mexico, signed in 1993. NAFTA made way for Mexico becoming the dumping ground for cheap, low-nutrient processed foods from the US, particularly corn, junk foods, and soda. Under NAFTA, 75% of Mexico is obese, and it's the world's largest consumer of Coca-Cola. Mexico, too, recognized this problem and tried to reduce the amount of corn syrup imported into the country. Similar to Samoa and turkey tails, lobbyists fought back and the WTO struck it down. Let's talk about solutions. And there can be many, but there's two particular solutions that I think that are extremely important and that can actually work if put in the proper place. One is curriculum in grade school for children. Children are the drivers in families. Parents will do things for their children that they may not do for themselves. This is how children are very important when it comes to health and nutrition. They can spark these conversations at home, and that can change the pattern of how the families self-educate themselves on what they need to eat from a nutrition base and whatnot. Number one, let's start with the children. Number two is the lobby. We have to prevent companies or lobbyists from marketing misleading ads. This is where law can help prevent lobbyists from marketing and promoting any substance or product that has been proven to be harmful to animals or human consumption. I hope you enjoyed it. See you on the next.